It was just another busy afternoon in the heart of the city, the kind where people rushed through lunch breaks and the noise of traffic blended with chatter from nearby cafes. At one corner of a sleek, high-end restaurant sat a man who looked like he didn't quite belong in the ordinary crowd. Dressed in a sharp-tailored suit, with a calm but focused gaze, he was the kind of person who made people pause and wonder, asterisk, woe is that? Asterisk, he wasn't there for a business meeting or a meal. He was observing, watching, and what caught his attention wasn't the food or the ambience, but a waitress, young, polite, and clearly trying her best to hide how exhausted she really was. Her name was Emily. Her uniform was neatly pressed, but the shoes she wore had clearly seen better days. She smiled at every customer, nodded at every order, and moved like someone who couldn't afford to stop for even a moment. The CEO, billionaire entrepreneur Lucas Grant, had come in expecting nothing more than a quiet break. Instead, he found himself strangely drawn to her. It wasn't just her kindness or how well she did her job. It was something else. Something he noticed when the restaurant quieted down just enough. Around 2 p.m., most of the staff began taking short breaks. One by one, waiters headed to the back to grab a quick lunch. But Emily, she stayed on her feet, wiping tables, refilling glasses, checking on guests, all without touching a single bite of food. Lucas watched as she glanced toward the staff room a few times, her hand brushing her stomach ever so slightly, then returning to work as if nothing was wrong. Curiosity got the better of him. Lucas wasn't the type to interfere. In his world, business was business, and personal lives were personal. But something about Emily's quiet struggle stirred something unfamiliar in him. This wasn't charity. It wasn't pity. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time, a need to understand, to connect. Why would someone skip their only break? Why go hungry in a place full of food? He waited, and when he finally found a chance to speak to her, what she said stopped him cold. It wasn't what he expected, not even close. It wasn't about money, or a forgotten lunch, or even pride. It was something deeper. Something that made him question everything he thought he knew about hardship, sacrifice, and strength. And that's where it all began. Emily hesitated for a second when Lucas asked her if she'd eaten. It wasn't the question itself, it was the way he asked it. Not like a boss or a customer, more like someone who truly wanted to know. She gave him a polite smile, the kind people wear when they're used to hiding things. "I'm fine," she said softly, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I'll eat later." But Lucas didn't miss the way her eyes dropped for just a moment, or how her voice thinned out at the end. Something about it didn't sit right with him. He built companies from scratch, learned to read people in boardrooms and backroom deals. And one thing he knew for sure, when someone said, "I'm fine," that quickly, they usually weren't. Over the next few days, Lucas found himself coming back to the restaurant. He told himself it was coincidence, that he just liked the place. But the truth was, he couldn't stop thinking about that moment. About her. He began noticing more details. The way Emily counted her tips down to the last cent. How she sometimes glanced at the menu as if tempted, but always walked away empty-handed. She smiled through it all, though, always smiling. He finally learned a bit more from another server, a quiet guy named Marcus who seemed to respect her. Marcus mentioned that Emily worked double shifts almost every day. Said she barely ever took breaks and turned down meals offered by the kitchen staff. When Lucas pressed a little, Marcus just shrugged. "She says there's someone else who needs it more than she does." That line stuck with Lucas for hours. Asterisk, someone else who needs it more asterisk, who could that be? A child? A sibling? Was she caring for someone sick? The billionaire CEO had faced high-stakes negotiations, corporate takeovers, and global press. But he'd never been this drawn into someone else's life. He tried to focus on work, but it was like Emily's quiet determination kept echoing in his mind. He started asking discreet questions, hoping to learn more without making her uncomfortable. But Emily was careful, almost too careful. She never talked about her personal life, never complained, never let her guard down. That only made Lucas more curious and more unsettled. He'd always believed that hard work led to success. But here was someone working harder than most people he knew, and still going without lunch. He didn't know it yet, but what he was about to discover would shake him to his core and change the course of both their lives in ways neither of them saw coming. The next evening, as rain tapped against the restaurant windows, Lucas sat at his usual corner table, pretending to scroll through emails on his phone. But really, his eyes were following Emily. She moved with the same quiet grace, her apron slightly wrinkled, her shoes even more worn than the day before. And still, no sign of a meal, no sign of rest. Later, after her shift ended, Lucas stepped outside, pretending to be on a call. He watched as Emily exited through the back door, pulling her thin jacket tight against the wind. She didn't call a ride or head toward a car. Instead, she walked, fast, head down, disappearing into the night like someone with a destination they didn't want noticed. Curiosity gnawed at him. So the next evening, he followed from a distance. He told himself it was concern, not invasion. But deep down, he knew this wasn't something he usually did. Not for anyone. She turned down 2 streets, cut through a narrow alley, then climbed the cracked steps of an old apartment building. Lucas waited across the street, watching as a dim light flickered on in a window 3 floors up. He stood there for a while, wondering who was waiting for her inside. The next day, Lucas had his assistant do a quiet background check. What came back wasn't much. Emily Thompson, 22, no known family in the city. No criminal record, no college listed. But one thing caught his eye, a recent court document. A legal guardianship. He stared at the name. Lily Thompson, age 6. A child. Suddenly, it all made sense. Why she skipped meals, worked late, never spent a cent on herself. She wasn't just surviving. She was protecting someone, raising a child all on her own. At the restaurant that night, Lucas noticed something different. Emily's smile was still there, but it didn't reach her eyes. There was tension in her shoulders, a hurriedness in her steps. When she dropped a tray of silverware and froze for a second too long, he knew something wasn't right. After her shift, he caught her outside, under the same awning where she always checked the bus schedule. "Is everything okay?" he asked gently. Emily looked up at him, her eyes tired but alert. "I'm fine," she said again. But this time, her voice cracked just slightly. Lucas didn't push. Not yet. But something inside him twisted. There was more going on than just struggle. There was fear. A quiet kind that people carry when something precious is slipping away, and they're the only ones trying to hold it all together. And Lucas was about to find out just how close to the edge Emily really was days past. And Lucas found himself caught in a tug-of-war between his world of boardrooms and the fragile life Emily was trying to protect. Every time he saw her, it was like peeling back layers of a story he wasn't sure he was ready to hear. The more he watched, the more he realized that the struggles she faced weren't just about money or missed meals. They were about survival. And not just hers. It was about keeping Lily safe. One evening, after a particularly long shift, Emily was visibly shaken. Her hands trembled as she stacked plates, and a customer's careless comment about young single moms struggling to make ends meet barely registered as she forced a smile. Lucas, who was watching quietly from a corner, knew the words had cut deeper than she let on. Later, as the restaurant emptied, Lucas approached her again. "Emily, you don't have to do this alone," he said softly. But she shook her head, the stubbornness in her eyes shining through the exhaustion. "I have to," she whispered. "If I don't, who will?" Lucas wanted to ask more, to understand what danger she was hiding from, but she closed off like a door slamming shut. That night, as he left the restaurant, he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. There was a shadow over her life that went beyond financial hardship, something unseen but heavy. The following days brought new challenges. Emily started showing up later and leaving earlier, her smiles growing rarer. She carried herself like someone who was trying to hold a storm at bay. One night, Lucas noticed a man waiting near the restaurant entrance after her shift, a man with a cold stare and an impatient air. Emily hurried past him without a glance, but Lucas's instinct screamed that this wasn't just a random passerby. Concern turned to alarm when Lucas overheard a brief conversation between Marcus and another staff member. "Emily's been getting calls, strange ones, sometimes late at night. She's scared someone might come looking for her or the kid." Marcus's voice lowered. "She's trying to keep Lily hidden." The thought of a little girl living in fear shook Lucas. His mind raced with questions. Was Emily running from someone? Was Lily's safety in danger right now? The more he learned, the more the mystery deepened. One evening, Lucas stayed until closing time. He watched as Emily packed her things, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Suddenly, her phone buzzed loudly, breaking the silence. She looked at the screen, her face paling. Without a word, she dashed out into the night, disappearing into the shadows. Lucas stood there, heart pounding. The chase had begun, but he still didn't know what he was chasing, or what he might find at the end. Lucas didn't hesitate. He grabbed his coat and followed Emily into the night, the rain mixing with the cold air as she moved swiftly through the streets. She didn't look back, didn't slow down. It was as if every step took her further away from something dangerous, something dark she was desperate to escape. He caught up near a small park where the streetlights flickered weakly. Emily stopped abruptly, her chest heaving as she tried to catch her breath. Lucas approached carefully, not wanting to startle her. "Emily, wait. What's going on? Who is calling you?" he asked quietly. She looked at him, eyes wild with fear and something deeper, pain perhaps. "I can't talk about it here," she said, pulling a folded piece of paper from her jacket pocket. "This is all I have right now." Lucas unfolded the note and scanned the words written in a hurried scrawl. Asterisk, meet me tomorrow. You can't hide forever. Lily needs me. Asterisk. His heart sank. The message was a threat, but from who? And why would someone claim Lily needed them? Questions piled up in his mind. Emily's fight was far more complicated than he ever imagined. Before he could ask more, a shadow moved near the edge of the park. A man stepped forward, his face half hidden under a hood, voice low and sharp. "You're making this harder than it needs to be, Emily," he said. "Give Lily back." Emily's face hardened. "She's not going anywhere with you." Lucas felt the tension spike. This wasn't just about money or a tough life anymore. This was a battle over a child's future, and Emily was in the middle of it. The man laughed coldly. "You think you can protect her? You don't have what it takes." Lucas wanted to step in, to protect them both, but Emily shook her head fiercely. "This is my fight." As the man disappeared into the night, Emily turned to Lucas with tears in her eyes. "He's Lily's father. He's dangerous." Lucas's mind raced. The stakes were higher than he thought. This wasn't just a struggling single mother story. It was a hidden war, a desperate struggle to keep a child safe from someone who wouldn't give up. That night, Lucas couldn't sleep. His world of business deals and corporate power felt distant compared to the raw, urgent reality Emily faced. He knew he couldn't just walk away. But how do you help someone fighting a battle you barely understand? How do you protect a child from a past that won't stay buried? The answers were coming, but not without risk. Emily's secret was deeper, darker, and more dangerous than anyone expected. And Lucas was about to find out just how much he was willing to fight for a stranger's family. The next day, Lucas arrived at the meeting spot Emily had reluctantly agreed to, the small, quiet park on the city's edge. His heart pounded with every step, unsure of what he would face. Emily was already there, holding Lily's hand tightly, her eyes scanning the shadows nervously. As the man emerged from behind a tree, Lucas recognized him immediately. It wasn't just any stranger. It was a man with a past just as complicated as Emily's. The child's father, Mark, had a reputation for trouble, but today he looked tired and worn, not the threatening figure Lucas had imagined. Mark's voice was low, almost pleading. "Emily, I want to do right by Lily. I made mistakes, but I want to be part of her life." Emily's voice trembled, but she stood her ground. "You left. You gave up. You're only here because you think I'll hand her over." Mark shook his head. "I'm here because I want to fix this. Let me prove it." Lucas watched the tension crack like ice between them. It wasn't just a fight over custody. It was a fight for trust, for forgiveness, for a chance at a better future. Suddenly, a police car pulled into the park, lights flashing silently. Officers stepped out, approaching cautiously. Emily's eyes widened in shock, and Lucas's heart sank. Had they called the police? But then an officer spoke to Mark quietly before turning to Emily. "We've been investigating Mark's history. There's a restraining order against him for harassment, but new evidence suggests he's been trying to make amends. We want to help create a safe plan for Lily's well-being." Relief washed over Emily's face, but the moment was tense. This wasn't an ending. It was a new beginning, one with rules, protection, and hope. Lucas stepped forward. "If you both agree, I can help. Resources, legal advice, whatever it takes." Emily looked at Lucas, gratitude and exhaustion mixing in her eyes. "Thank you. I don't want to fight anymore. I just want Lily to be safe." As the officers began outlining a plan, Lucas felt the weight of what had just happened. A billionaire CEO had stepped into a world far from his own, but maybe it was this kind of difference that could change everything. Just as the conversation started to calm, Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and froze. Lucas noticed the screen, another message. But this one wasn't a threat. It was from an unknown number, simple and chilling. "Asterisk, we're watching." Asterisk. Emily's hand tightened around Lily's, and Lucas knew the story wasn't over. Not yet. The fight for safety, for trust, for a future free of fear, it was just beginning. And this time, it was bigger than any of them imagined. The message lingered on Emily's phone screen, cold and unsettling, but this time, she didn't flinch. She looked up at Lucas, a new determination shining in her eyes. "I'm not running anymore," she said quietly. "Whatever they want, I won't let fear control us." Lucas nodded, feeling a mix of admiration and responsibility. This wasn't just about business deals or boardroom battles anymore. It was about real lives, about courage in the face of uncertainty. In the weeks that followed, Lucas used his resources to connect Emily with a trusted legal team, social services, and community support groups. The police presence remained discreet but steady, ensuring that Lily and Emily had a safety net. Slowly, the threat lurking in the shadows began to fade. Mark, the child's father, took part in supervised visits, showing genuine effort to rebuild trust and prove his commitment. It wasn't easy, and the road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, there was hope. Hope that a fractured family could heal, that Lily could grow up in a place where love wasn't just a word, but a promise. Emily started taking small steps back toward a normal life, sharing meals, taking breaks, and even laughing again. The woman who once skipped lunch to keep going was learning to care for herself while fiercely protecting her daughter. Lucas watched it all quietly, realizing how much strength it took to keep going when everything seems stacked against you. Their unlikely connection between a billionaire CEO and a struggling waitress became a reminder that sometimes all it takes to change a life is someone willing to see beyond the surface and offer a hand. Before long, Emily returned to the restaurant, no longer hiding behind exhaustion, but with a quiet confidence. She and Lucas often crossed paths, and while their worlds were still very different, they shared an unspoken respect, a bond forged in hardship and hope. One afternoon, as Lucas prepared to leave, Emily approached him with a small, folded note, for when you need a reminder of why you helped. Inside was a simple drawing from Lily, two figures holding hands beneath a bright sun with the words, "Asterisk, thank you for being our light asterisk." Lucas smiled, the weight of the past months lifting just a little. He realized that success isn't measured in dollars or deals, but in moments like these, when a stranger's kindness sparks a new beginning. Life would always have challenges, but now, Emily and Lily faced them with more than just courage. They had support, and that made all the difference. And sometimes the most unexpected meetings lead to the most powerful stories.